Alright, so these are basically this is just the first video, so I'll just be mentioning rules and stuff that you need to know. I'll probably record another video that's doing questions so that you can get an understanding of how it works. Alright, so these are the rules that you need to understand how the module works and how to solve basically every equation. The one circled in blue lines you have to know. The one circled in red lines, really important, and you should know. The one circled in green lines, probably not going to be used as much, but you should know anyways, just in case. So in blue lines, we have parallel lines, perpendicular lines, and gradient. Parallel lines, very simple. If they state two lines within the question, two or more lines, and they also state that those lines are parallel to each other, it just means that the gradients are one and the same. Typically, this also happens when they put parallelograms in the question. It means that the parallelograms sides in which they're opposite of each other. For example, let me draw it out. When they show a parallelogram, it means that these two sides have the same gradient along with these two sides. Very simple. So that's parallel lines. Perpendicular lines means that if two lines in the question are perpendicular, it means that those two lines' gradients times together equals -1. Now, if you see here, the formula I've written out is m2 equals -1 over m1. And this is just how you can apply it the most immediately in the question. Say if they've given you one of the gradients, one of the line's gradients, and you need to find the gradient of the other line, you can immediately use this formula and just plug in the gradient that you are trying to find in the left side right here, and then you can put the gradient that you already have right here. So m2 equals -1 over the gradient that you have. You plug it in the calculator, you should be able to get it fairly quickly. But you should know just in case that the perpendicular lines just mean m2 times m1 equals -1. Gradient, you need to know the gradient formula. This is kind of obvious. Basically, to find the gradient of a line, you need to get you need two coordinates. Basically, it doesn't matter if they have algebraic values or not. You need to get the y2 y1 x2 x1 value, plug it in this way, or you can swap the opposite sides, so it can also be y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2. But this is typically how you find the gradient, y2 minus y1, in the case that you know what the value is lah. That's how you find gradient. So the red box here, this is the line equation, probably the questions that will be asked the most in term exams. Y equals mx plus c. This is the line equation. So in this formula, y and x are coordinate values. Basically, these are just values in which if you have a coordinate and you're trying to find, let's say, the gradient or the y-intercept, you can just plug in the coordinate values y and x. The gradient value and the x, this I've seen some people make mistakes on. Basically, if, let's say, a question, it gives you a jumbled up line equation and it tells you to find something that requires you to have the gradient. If you see the x value has a value right beside it, then 9 times out of 10, no, I'm pretty sure this is guaranteed, that value is going to be the gradient value. Some people don't understand this, I'm just saying this right now. But the value that is right beside the x value in questions are basically always the gradient value, and so you can just use that value as a standalone. You don't need to use it together with the x coordinate. And obviously c equals y-intercept. This is very simple. And you also need to learn how to subject switch, which is basically flipping maybe the x-intercept or the mx over to the other side and vice versa. You need to do that for most of the time to find the value, so be sure to revise about the subject switching. Yeah, this is just what I stated earlier. When line equation in questions depict a value right beside the x value, or typically it will just show the x as an x, that value is the gradient value. So yeah, you don't need to go through too much complicated steps. And the green box, yes, if they ask you for the y-intercept, the x value is always 0. This is because y-intercept is when a line crosses the y-axis. It's the point at which it crosses the y-axis. And since it is a point on the y-axis line, it means that on the y-axis line, it's obviously passing through the origin, right? Which is 0, 0. So the y-axis line is actually just its x being 0 and its y being whatever y-intercept is. So if it's asking you to find y-intercept, just know that the x value is always 0, and it's typically very easy to find out the y. The same thing goes for x-intercept. It's a point at which a line crosses the x-axis, right? So I'll draw it right here, the y and the x-axis. Intercepts are just points at which it touches the line at what intercept it is. If it's a y-intercept, it touches the y line, which means its x-axis is definitely 0. If it's an x-intercept, it means that a point touches the x-axis, which means its y value is definitely 0, because they both pass through the origin of 0, 0. Very simple, but also a rule that you need to keep in the back of your mind. Midpoint, some people have gotten this wrong because they simply just forgot this existed. Just try and remember this. Basically, if it's asking you a midpoint between two coordinates, or like on a line with two coordinates, you just do x1 plus x2 over 2, and then y1 plus y2 over 2. And typically, you can then find the midpoint x value and midpoint y value to plug it in as a coordinate afterwards. So in this form, basically. Alright, x-intercept solving method. This is for the people that don't understand what happens when the question asks for the x-intercept, or when you have the x-intercept value but you don't understand what you need to do with it. So typically I say, is when it gives you the x-intercept value, it will also give you the gradient value, because it means that you can solve the question using the reverse gradient formula. Reverse gradient formula just means subject searching with the gradient formula. Okay, so if they give you a gradient, let's say 2, I'll just make a question right now. If they make a gradient, they give you the gradient equals 2, and the x-intercept equals, say, 3. What does this tell you? And alright, wait, screw that. And say it's asking you to find the y equation. Alright. In this scenario, you don't need to find y and x. You just need to find what the y-intercept is, because the y and x are always undefined at the final answer. So how to find the x-intercept? Basically, x-intercept, like I said before, means that the y-axis is always 0. So the x-intercept value tells you that the coordinate of the x-intercept is 3, 0, since its y-axis is always 0. Now, how do you use this to find a y-axis? Basically, if we remember the gradient formula, we can use our formula to plug in the x-intercept and the y-intercept. How do you plug in the y-intercept? Well, since it's a y-intercept, it means its x-axis is 0 and its y-axis is something. But you just need to find that something, right? So let's point that as y. Now that we have these two coordinates, we can plug it in the gradient equation. And since we also have the gradient, we can just put the gradient here. So gradient being 2 equals y2 x1. Let's take y2 x1 as the x-intercept, which is 3 over 0. So the y2, since it's x-intercept, it's obviously 0 over 3. And then we'll plug in the y-intercept value. It's y being y, and it's x being 0. So now that you have this, you can solve it fairly easily. 0 minus y equals y, because 0 minus nothing is just nothing. 3 minus 0 equals 3. So you end up with this. And moving 3 to the other side, you get y equals 2 times 3. 6. That means you have just found that the y-intercept is 6, since you found the y value of the y-intercept, and that is just the y-intercept. And then you can solve the line equation by just writing as so. Very, very simple.